Sheva to AC Milan, Thierry Henry back to Arsenal, Scholes back to United and Adriano to Serie A. Well, some comebacks are more welcome than others, but there is one this week that definitely isn't welcome. You know what it is, we'll get to it, but for now, welcome to the Anglo-Italian Pod, Season 2, Episode 47. My name is Tommi, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and very good friend, Mr.
Rory. I'm here once again with the bad behavior. How are you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing great. I'm actually ready for a new episode of the Anglo-Italian Pod. Before we get to it, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglo-Pod, on Instagram at Anglo-Italian-Pod, and to give a cheeky little follow to our sponsor at Sports Club Maps, both on Twitter and Instagram. Rory, let's go back to the introduction that we just had. You want to talk about this unwelcome comeback this week?
Well, some things, like, I honestly thought that we would have a little bit more recovery time. They would give it a little bit more peace. And I'm going to use peace. The word is key there. Maybe wait for a time when there aren't other massive things going on in the world before they would announce it again. But it looks like, guys, much like when Fast and Furious release yet another film and nobody wants it, the European Super League is going to be back. But this time it's slightly different, slightly different. But I think, well, we're going to discuss whether we think it's made it any better, whether we think it's made it worse, has it made it any more palatable. But the idea now is that it would be down to 10 teams. And I'm sure, listeners, you can guess which teams haven't been invited. But Tommy, which two teams do you think that were invited last time haven't been invited this time?
Let me think. Are we talking England? Are we talking the capital of England? Are we talking the north side of the capital of England?
We are indeed.
So Spurs and Gunners were not invited this time, I have a feeling.
Correct. Obviously, all the clubs in Europe have seen this incredible batch of young talent at Arsenal and thought, we don't want that smoke. We're scared. Arsenal are going to win it easily. Let's just not invite them.
That's the reason.
And then for Tottenham, obviously, it's just they've heard the song. Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. They know it's pointless to invite them. So, but the good thing is we now get to claim some moral high ground of like, oh, well, we wouldn't have done it anyway. So, like, we don't want to be in your little club.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we
Rory.
haven't been invited.
Good job. Good job to Arsenal.
But this time, their idea is that it would be a 10-team league, but there would be relegation this time. So it wouldn't be a closed league. They haven't talked about how you would fill those gaps, or there's very little detail at the moment. They're just kind of leaking that there will be an announcement. Maybe when you're listening to this, there would have been the announcement. I don't know. But so far, all we've got is it would be 10 teams. Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, Atletico, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter, AC Milan, and Juventus. I think that's all 10. Bayern Munich. Mm-hmm. Yep. No, Bayern Munich weren't invited.
Yeah, I know. It's I honestly, this came kind of out of the left field. We are reading about like so many horrible things these days, and there was no worse timing possible for the Super League to make a comeback all of a sudden. Don't you think?
Yeah. It is the definition of like bad timing. But I was intrigued to see what you think, Tommy, because I think an idea like this is coming and it is going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. It is going to happen. And when I hear about this idea and then I hear about what UEFA have planned for the Champions League, I don't know which one is a better idea. So I'm going to take you through the changes that they're proposing for the Champions League. And I think this is due to come in 4 seasons, I think. But what they want to do is increase it from 32 to 36 teams. Rather than group stages, there will be one big table, but each team will play 10 games, 5 home and 5 away.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's the same teams home and away, but you won't be able to play every team, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know how they figure out who plays who. They haven't really explained that.
It would be a bit like the NFL in the United States. Not every team plays every team. There is like a draw, I think, at the beginning of the season.
So it would they separate it into conference? Like they call them conferences, don't they? I don't know. It already, I'm confused. And then the top 8 would qualify automatically for the knockout rounds. And then the teams from 9th to 24th would qualify to play a 2-leg playoff that would qualify them for the knockout rounds.
All right.
So this sounds like an absolute mess. Like I already, even when I've seen it on, there's a few videos on YouTube that I've seen explain it, and they've kind of put it in tables, and there's arrows going up and down and diagonal, and it just seems so complicated. If I had to choose one of these ideas, because I think one of them is coming, right? I might wait to hear more about the Super League and pick that one, because at least it seems fairly simple, right?
Look, the thing that I don't like about the Super League is the idea that there is no competition to get there. It's a closed circuit, even though now they said that there would be a relegation. But I'm really wondering who are the teams that are coming from the second tier. So that I don't really get. So yeah, we can only wait to know more about it. But the thing that I don't like is that it's a bit elitary. While the Champions League reform that you just talked about wouldn't be the first reform in the Champions League. There was the big one at the beginning of the 1990s that made it from the Champions Cup to the Champions League. There was even a time when if you won a game, you only were awarded 2 points, and that rule even changed. We've seen the change of the away goal rule, which I honestly still miss a little bit.
And don't forget the time when there was 2 group stages. That very brief, I think it was a brief period where there was 2 group stages.
True, and I have a feeling that this first stage of the competition was already in place back in the day in the Champions League. There was like a sort of league where you played all the other teams, I have a feeling, and then you advanced to the next stages. I don't know, but still, I love the Champions League, and I'm open to reforms. The thing that I don't like about the Super League is that it's kind of elitary and doesn't welcome certain clubs. That's the thing, and doesn't really allow for big upsets or like giant killings that we all love. That's my
this is it. I think one of the things we got most excited about in this Champions League so far was like Sheriff beating Real Madrid and results like that, right? Where you're like, oh, this is incredible. This is like, these teams getting to represent themselves. We could get lost in the grass here, but like, if a Spanish team finishes bottom, does it have to be a Spanish team that comes back up? Like, does only the Spanish team in their league get promoted? Or is it like, I don't know. It seems like it hasn't really been thought through, if you know what I mean. Like, if an English team finishes bottom,
are you hinting that UEFA didn't think something through, Rory? That's so unlike them. Jesus Christ.
I know, controversial take. I know, this is like my hot take of the week. UEFA don't think of all the things fully. But
listeners, do let us know what you think as well. Slide into our DMs, share your opinions. We usually have a little moment on Thursdays and Mondays where you can write questions for the pod, but you can do it anytime, really, whenever you listen to the pod. DM us. You're more than welcome to share your opinions.
Yeah, I think I just, once I saw the two next to each other, I thought, I don't know which one I prefer. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe you know more than we know right now, but I'm currently refreshing Twitter and there's still not been any proper announcements, not yet.
Before we quickly preview what's going to be on this episode, since we don't want to talk about it during the Euroreview, we just want to address for a quick second what is going on in Ukraine at the moment. And one of our listeners, Rory, asked us a question. It is sports in time of war. Shouldn't it be a sort of safe place where every national team can play to kind of forget about the ongoing conflict? What do you think about this take?
I can see your point, but I think in the past it has banning teams and countries from competing in international tournaments has led to big change, or has helped lead to big change. The case that comes in my mind is South Africa when they were banned from playing cricket and rugby, or no, they weren't. Certain teams would refuse to play them during the apartheid era. I know that did do a lot towards that. So I think there has been a precedent for it changing things in the past, but there is an argument that it is very, very harsh on the athletes. Like, so it's not the athlete's choice that their country has invaded a country, and they might miss out on their one opportunity to play in an international tournament. I see that argument, but I think the positives of boycotting them from a tournament outweighs the unfortunateness, if that's a word, of someone missing a tournament as a player. What do you think, Tommy?
I think it's a very good question. It comes from a person that I know is not super into football, but enjoys sport as a cultural event. Look, I honestly, the thing that it really hurts my heart is to see that there is this sort of Russian phobia growing up, which is borderline racist, really. And it involves people that have nothing to do, as you said, with this war. Now, the big negative of going on with this, I imagine the game between Poland and Russia, between the players literally going for their shins in the pitch, there would be some massive concerns over fighting in the stands. And so it's better probably at this moment not to have this type of games be played. Is sad is that these players, also the fact that they're not speaking up, they're not in an easy position. They live in a dictatorship. We've seen children arrested by the Russian police. These people, I'm not blaming them.
Allegedly a dictatorship, just in case. Allegedly a dictatorship.
You're right. Allegedly a dictatorship. We've seen children being arrested, and I'm just saying that it mustn't be easy to be a Russian and having diverging opinions from your president in this specific moment in time. This is it for the war. We promise we're not going back to it. But of course,
we're going to be talking about it forever. But we will try to focus on football.
Strongly hoping that all of this madness comes to an end as soon as possible. And our thoughts and prayers go to the victims of the war thus far. It's time to preview what's going to be in this pod. Of course, our customary Euro review. We are going through FA Cup action. Chelsea being allegedly sold, or maybe officially sold, a bit of Coppa Italia dullness for you listeners, and two big game previews for this weekend that could virtually decide the Serie A and the Premier League title races. Then we're going to have our good friend AFC Finners on, and this time around we're going to be talking about Stan Cullis, a person that you might not know about, but a manager that kind of changed the football forever, since even the great late Bill Shankly regarded him as his hero. Rory, if you're ready, let's inflate this blimp and fly all the way to our Euroreview section.
Here we go.
Up, and away in the Euroreview blimp, baby. We are going up to England, where there was FA Cup action. Rory, take us through it. Of course, there is a game that you're desperate to talk about.
Oh, it's been a good one. We're waiting for the quarterfinals, but this last round has been pretty exciting, I would say. Some really good games. A few upsets, maybe one. And I think a few teams that, as we look at the teams that will be in the quarterfinals, that we might fancy themselves for a proper run at the cup. So it's really, really looking good. I wish Arsenal was still in it, but they're not. But to make it better, of course, Tottenham are going to get a mention this week because they lost. They lost 1-0 to Championship side Middlesbrough in extra time. And Middlesbrough now have had a bit of a mad cup run. So you'll remember they knocked out Manchester United in the previous round on penalties. Their goal was very controversial. There was a massive handball. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have been allowed. So they were very fortunate to get through against Manchester United, I think it would be fair to say. This game, they definitely were not fortunate. This game, they played Tottenham off the park. It was a bit mad. Like when we look at the stats for the game. So even, we're going to start with the XG. Okay, love a bit of XG.
Yeah.
For Middlesbrough, their XG was 2.96. For Spurs, it was 0.78. They had roughly the same amount of shots on target, but you can see that from the XG, Middlesbrough's were much better in quality than Spurs were. Theirs were much more kind of speculative efforts. Harry Kane did have a goal disallowed, but he was offside. But the winner was scored by Middlesbrough local Coburn, scored in the 107th minute, 19 years old. He's grown up, come through that club, 12 appearances this season, 4 goals, and he's only started 2 of those games. So he's a player that they're very excited about. The goal was absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you've seen it, Tommy.
Yes, he took down the goal from a very tight position, tight angle, I want to say. Beautiful play all around from Middlesbrough. He kind of skips a defender and then he's in front of an open goal. But you wouldn't expect such a young'un to, have that confidence to just smash it in. But I guess when you have Tottenham in front of you, you feel like everything is possible. You know they're not going to go all the way to lifting that trophy, probably.
That's it. And he looked he absolutely put his foot through that shot. Like, he hit it so hard. It was a beautiful finish. Lloris didn't stand a chance. Honestly, to say, Tottenham were not in this game at any point. And friend of the show, people who've been listening for a long time may remember him. Colin, he came on our Christmas show as our Middlesbrough fan. He was in the ground. I was talking to him today, and he said, by about the 70th minute, or it was getting towards the end of the game, he was like, you know what, if we lose, I don't really mind. We've played so well that the result doesn't matter. Even if we lose 1-0, I'll be like, okay, I'm proud of the boys. But then he said, but then we scored, and I realized exactly how much I cared. He said the place absolutely exploded. And it's all part of this new wave here at Borough with Chris Wilder taking charge. Now, obviously, everybody will know him from his Sheffield United days. The incredible job he did there in their first season. The second season was obviously a bit trickier, but he's come into Middlesbrough. They were 14th when he took over. They are now up into 8th place. And in his 19 games, he's won 12, drawn 3, and lost 4. So he's averaging 2.05 points per game. And honestly, I think with him in charge, you'd be looking at them. They should be in the playoffs this year. And we know that the championship is very hard to predict, but they should be in the playoffs this year. If they don't make it up this year, they'll probably make it up next year. He is a great manager. Since the 1920 season, I was looking at his record. He has now beaten Emery, Graham Potter, David Moyes, Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti, Ralph Rangnick, and now Antonio Conte. His record against the big teams is really good, and they played really, really well. But I asked my mate Colin to give us a few suggestions of players that he's particularly excited about. And he said, now I want to get the name right. He said Isaiah Jones has been the most exciting this season. Him and Crooks link up very well. Dale Fry's been great. But the man of the match in this game was Johnny Howson. He was unbelievable in the midfield, really ran the game. And it was just a really proper FA Cup tie. Tottenham getting knocked out. It is now 14 years. Let's repeat it again. 14 years without a trophy. Funnily, that's the same amount of times Arsenal have won the FA Cup. 14. Weird that, right? And since Tottenham last won the FA Cup, are you ready, Tom? I'm going to bask in this a little bit. But since Tottenham last won the FA Cup, Arteta left Everton, moved to Arsenal, won the FA Cup twice as a player, retired, went to Manchester City, won 5 major trophies as an assistant manager, and has now won the FA Cup as a manager at Arsenal.
Probably even got married and had a few children, right? Yeah. Wow. Also, Rory, I just want to go back to the list of managers that you wrote earlier. Listeners of the show will know that we are big Brighton and the Hove Albion fans, but I want to say that Graham Potter in the same conversation as Ancelotti, Conte, Rangnick. I'm like, hey, why not? Yeah,
why not? And I think when he played him, it wasn't this terrible run that Brighton are going through. It was last season. So I think maybe it holds a bit more weight. But you'll notice one name was missing from the list. Senor Arteta. That's whose name was missing.
I have a question for you, Rory. I have a question for you, but I'll let you go for maximum 1 minute. Actually, 1 minute and 10, because 10 seconds it would probably be you giggling. What's left for Tottenham this season?
1
minute from now. Go.
I don't want to jinx it. So I'm going to say trying to qualify for the top 4 is what is left for them. Because I'm not going to write them out because that will bite me in the bum. So I'm going to say all their focus now needs to be on Conte, just getting that team, finding out what that team is, right? Finding out who he needs, if he's going to stay, who he can get rid of, how to fit these players in a system and try and chase down that top 4 spot. Do I think they're going to do it? No comment, but that is what they should be focusing on. Another year without a trophy for Tottenham. Another year without a trophy.
You had to say it. Rory had to say it. But staying in the FA Cup, we had another very interesting matchup. Luton making life hard for the Blues from Stamford Bridge. Final result 2-3. Goals by Berkey and Cornick for Luton, and Saul Niguez, Werner, and Mr. Lukaku, the winner for Chelsea. Take us through what happened.
Well, it did feel like the end of days. The fact that not only did Werner and Lukaku both score in the same game, but Werner set up Lukaku. It felt like one of the signs of the apocalypse. But Luton really did give Chelsea a proper game. Now, obviously, Chelsea have kind of been... I often wonder how much it would distract players, the fact that they know the club is being sold, all the noise around it. I don't know how much difference it would make, but maybe it does. I don't know. Tuchel was very kind of reserved and very non-committal in his post-match conference, which I found very sensible and quite interesting. He was like, they keep trying to push him on things. He was like, is it a good thing that the club's being sold? He was like, Roman Abramovich always makes the right choice. It's his choice. So he was very, very straight down the line. But for the game...
He's German, dude. What do you expect?
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. For the game, Luton really did start the game really, really well. But Chelsea were always, as the game went on, I think it was more and more likely that they were going to win. But Luton are a really interesting team. Like less than 10 years ago, they were in the National League. So that's like the fifth tier of English football, right? So in 13-14, they were promoted back into the league. 17-18 promotion from League 2. 18-19 promotion from League 1. And now they're sixth in the championship, challenging for the playoffs. Like, this is a club that in the 80s were really, like, they were quite good. They were in not the Premier League, but the first division, right, as it was then. They won the League Cup, beating Arsenal 3-2 in the final in the 82-83 season, I want to say. So they're a club that has a really rich history, but they've been right down there. And now they're on the way back up. So it kind of makes sense that they gave Chelsea a proper game. Some players for Chelsea did struggle. Sarr definitely struggled. Malang Sarr looked really, really like he was struggling. Callum Hudson-Odoi didn't really impress. But Chelsea got over the line. Lukaku got the winner. I love... I've forgotten the name of Luton's ground now. Kenilworth Road is a really beautiful old stadium. Interesting fact, Tommy, one of the entrances for that stadium is between two houses. So it's like two houses, a little tunnel, and then just a gate for the ground. It's an amazing, proper English football stadium. Absolutely love it. So it looked great on the telly. But for Chelsea, we need to talk about the main story, really. The game fell into insignificance, right?
And sorry, before we go there, I just want to say I was checking Luton on my football app, and this weekend, the winners against Tottenham and the losers against Chelsea are going to take on each other in the championship on Saturday, the 5th of March at 4 p.m. Central European time. If you want to get some championship action in your weekend, it's Middlesbrough hosting Luton. But as Rory was saying, nobody was really talking about the Chelsea game because everybody was talking about the Chelsea ownership. Of course, as football fans all know, Chelsea has been owned since 2002, I want to say, by Roman Abramovich.
2003? Yeah, 2003.
2003 by Roman Abramovich, who now, amidst the Ukraine invasion, decided very, smart choice to give his club to new owners. Rory, what is going on? What is the overall feeling in England about this move?
I'm not going to get into politics, but the fact that he is being given time to be able to sell his assets says a lot about how Boris Johnson is reacting to this whole thing. But moving on, the big thing is who is going to buy the club. Now we talked about him last episode. The fact that his history was always going to catch up to him. But who is going to buy the club? So we'll talk about who's going to buy him and then what his legacy could be, right?
Conor McGregor is one of the contestants.
You spoiled it. Here we go. So
sorry. Sorry. You were keeping it for last.
There is 4 people. One is Hans-Jörg Weiss, a Swiss medical billionaire. He's apparently worth around $4 billion. He said he will need a consortium as Roman is asking far too much. So he's looking for other people to invest with him. He made all his money in the American medical system.
I was going to say a medical billionaire sounds as shady as it can get. Medical billionaire.
I didn't like it either.
Let's move on to the next.
is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's a Manchester United fan, but has apparently had a Chelsea season ticket. I find that a bit dodgy. He's been linked to buying the club since 2019, but he currently owns Nice, who are having a great season with Galtier in charge. But he's apparently worth 20 billion, making all his money through a chemical company called Ineos. He's also been linked to buying Leeds and Newcastle, so he definitely wants a Premier League club, but he has said that the stadium is an issue. Because of where Stamford Bridge is, it is impossible to expand. You can only renovate. And obviously the land in Chelsea is very, very expensive. So if you want to expand, you have to buy some quite expensive property off people who don't want to move. So he says the stadium is an issue.
All right.
Number 3, we have Todd Boehly. He'll be familiar to baseball and basketball fans as he owns the LA Dodgers and the LA Lakers. He is an American businessman. He's another one who tried to buy them in 2019, wasn't successful, but the fact that American brokers have been appointed to try and kind of sort out the deal means that he might have a bit of an advantage. Again, I kind of get the vibe here that it's going to be like the Cronkies at Arsenal. It's like another club in the Arsenal, I suppose. And I don't know how happy Chelsea fans will be with that, because Arsenal fans are not happy with our deal. So it'll be an interesting one. And then the last one, the one that I think every non-Chelsea fan is fully behind.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
just want the banter.
Just for the banter, even despite the fact that Conor McGregor definitely cannot afford to buy Chelsea, right? He's thrown his hat in the ring, and he puts him on Twitter, sending a message to somebody on WhatsApp saying, Chelsea available for 3 billion. Let's do it. Yeah, cool. He's a United fan, apparently. But I would personally love to see that madman running Chelsea. Maybe they'd get back to their mid-table mediocrity.
Yeah, there was a question exactly that from one of our listeners, and I would like you to answer to that. But my friend Michael said that, damn it, Conor McGregor wants to buy Chelsea. He should buy Inter Milan instead. And I was like, Michael, I will never understand your love for this club. Like, do you think that Conor McGregor would be a good owner to the club? He was just like, Tommaso, like, I wish you could understand things. Like, of course you would be fucking tight, right? I was like, yeah, whatever. Let's not have this conversation.
Obviously, this is going to be a conversation. If people who don't know Michael, he's definitely someone who likes a strong leader, right?
Yeah, he's up his street. It might sound horrible. Yes, he does like a strong leader, but he also likes his freedom. So he's not in favor of certain types of governments. But Rory, do you think, going back to the question that we received from one of our followers, are Chelsea going to go back to being mid-table nobodies in the Premier League?
Oh, I hope so. I don't know. I think before Abramovich bought them, they weren't mid-table. They just qualified for the Champions League that year, which was like a big factor in him buying them, I think. But they just qualified on the last day of the season, beating Liverpool, I think. Jesper Grønkjær goal off the top of my head. So they were a club on the rise anyway, but they are a club that haven't really won much before Abramovich turned up, right? I think any investor is going to keep them at that level. They will still, I think it will honestly be like an Arsenal thing where they'll be kept competitive, but there won't be that, like, they'll have to play by the rules that every club has had to, apart from City. And Chelsea fans don't like it. Like, Arsenal got left behind when Abramovich came because we played by the rules and they didn't have to. Like, so they're going to have to tighten their belt. They're going to have to adjust their strategy. Like, they can't just drop so much money on strikers that consistently fail. Like, there's no way they'll be able to buy Werner, then Lukaku, and before that Falcao, and before that Diego Costa, if you know what I mean, when a lot of them haven't worked. I think they are going to have to kind of change their strategy. It'll be interesting to see which members of the team stay. Like Granovskaya, I think she's very, very good at her job by all accounts. But if Abramovich goes,
she goes.
From what I've heard, she goes. It'll be maybe Bruce Buck doesn't stay. Like, it'll be interesting to see
Can I say
who
only
goes and
one
who
thing
stays.
about the? Will you remind me her name? The name of the
Granovskaya. Her first name it begins with Melania Granovskaya.
I think Marina.
Yeah.
I have to say that she's. Whenever I've seen her speak to the press, whenever I've seen her at a press conference, she looked like one of the most professional people I've ever seen in football ever. Unfazable, very clear what she has to do, what she doesn't have to say. Never in a strange situation of not knowing what to do, what to say. So I think that's going to be a real big blow for Chelsea.
Well, this is it, exactly. And apparently, like, a lot of the deals that they've negotiated now, you can argue about if they got a good deal on all of them. But apparently she's a very good negotiator, especially with selling players. So I think she could be a big miss. So it'll be interesting to see who stays, who goes. But what will Abramovich's legacy be, right? I think that's the big question. And I've seen a lot of Chelsea fans online, and again, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them have been saying, like, I've seen owner compilations, like pictures of videos of him walking with emotional music and be like, greatest football owner ever. And look, as a football owner, he was incredibly successful. He ran the club very well. Yeah. But I find the praising or the overpraising of him now very uncomfortable, considering why he's having to sell the club. So John Terry today, possibly the thickest man in football, John Terry tweeted a photo of him and Abramovich holding the Premier League trophy, just with the best and love hearts. It's like, man, read the room. Like, just don't do it now. Like, if you've spent forever saying this guy isn't connected to Putin, and he gets very litigious about this. So allegedly he's not connected to Putin. This week has proven that he's very close to Putin, allegedly. Just let's calm down with the praise for now. You can say thank you. You can say, like, thank you, Roman. It was great. But let's not paint him like some kind of saint now. I've been reading things this week about how he's involved in Israel and how he's involved in the horrific things that are happening to Palestine there and how he bankrolls a lot of it. Like, this guy is fucking dark. So let's try and remember that and keep it kind of toned, I think.
At the same time, I do understand that the Chelsea fans being absolutely grateful for what he has done to their club, as we were saying, taking them from the mid-table to the champions of Europe twice. However, you can still post a picture of you and Abramovich and say, just add a few words, thank you for everything you've done to our club. That's it. Without love hearts and everything that in this moment just feel a little bit out of place. But I do understand. I cannot deny that I do understand the Chelsea fans for just being grateful for what he's done to their club.
Well, this is it, exactly. Like, if the Cronkies ever win anything with Arsenal, like, significant, my feelings towards them would change. If you know what I mean, I understand.
And you would buy an American flag and hang it from your balcony, probably, right? Or maybe not.
I don't know how to respond to that, Tommy.
We love the United States, guys. We love the United States. We've got actually a lot of listeners from the US. Yeah. Hello, guys. We're just kidding around. Come on, it's all banter.
It's just that British sense of humor. You don't get it.
Yeah, from an Italian. British sense of humor from an Italian. The best kind. But Rory, before we jump to Italy, take us through some other results in the FA Cup.
So in the FA Cup, we had Manchester City beat Peterborough. That's a difficult one. 2-0 as Grealish and Mahrez scored. Zinchenko was captain. That was a nice touch. Palace beat Stoke 2-1. Goals from Kouyaté and Riedewald. Southampton beat West Ham 3-1. Perot, James Ward-Prowse banger, but not a free kick, just a banger. Ambrosia, Michail Antonio getting one for West Ham. And Minamino double puts Liverpool through versus Norwich. They pretty much fielded a second 11. Like, it's pretty scary, their strength in depth at the moment. Tonight, as we speak, you will know the result. But the big one, Everton versus Boreham Wood. I'm excited about this game. That could actually be an upset, I think. So, well, you'll know. But there we go. Those are the FA Cup results. The quarter final round draw is yet to be done. Maybe you'll know it. We don't know. And then hidden amongst all this FA Cup action, during the week, Leicester beat Burnley 2-0. This was their first Premier League win since they beat Liverpool on the 28th of December. It's 5 Premier League games without a win. It's mad the run they've been on. But Jamie Vardy now has 128 Premier League goals. He only started playing in the Premier League at 27. He's now gone ahead of Anelka, Dwight York, Steven Gerrard, Lukaku, Salah, and Ian Wright. This season, he's missed 12 games and he's still tied 4th in the top scoring ranks in the Premier League on 10 goals with Sterling and Son. In total, he's got 12 goals in 23 appearances. The guy is just still somehow underrated, and I think we could see Leicester's form starting to turn around if he can keep his fitness.
There are two famous people that I take the pride in remembering that I kind of discovered from nothing. These two people, I mean, not from nothing because they were making a name for themselves. But I clearly remember that among my friend group, I will take you through the first one that is the stupid one, not related to football. With my friends, upon watching once on MTV, I'm taking you back. Upon watching the video of Hot and Cold once, I called up a meeting with my friends to tell them, guys, there is this American girl, I think she's Canadian maybe, called Katy Perry, and she's super hot. And my friends were just like, oh, who is she? I don't know. And 3 years later, she blew up incredibly, and they felt like I had discovered her talent. And the other one,
the talent, guys, she's super hot.
Her talent, yeah, right. She's super hot. But also, those songs were pretty good because you're hot and you're cold. Yeah, that was pretty good. But the other one is Jamie Vardy. I remember when he went on that mad tear in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. After he scored the 3rd consecutive goal, which was still something big, but it hadn't blown up yet. I don't remember which goal it was, but I was so impressed by seeing this guy. I was just like, oh my God, it looks like the ultimate striker. Mm-hmm. And then I texted my friends and I was like, guys, I don't know if you watch the Premier League, but this guy, Jamie Vardy, is pretty insane. And from then it really blew up. And the thing I will always remember Jamie Vardy for is that goal against Liverpool. Oh my. Rory, what is the memory that sticks to your mind the most about Jamie?
Jamie Vardy memory. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is just his vibe, his all-round vibe of like chat shit, get banged was a big thing. Him 2 foot in the corner flag when he scored against Sheffield United. The goal against Liverpool. Just so many great moments, that guy. Really, really, like, he always scores against Arsenal. He's got a really good record against Arsenal. I still think, weirdly, he's underrated. I'm going to say quite a Richard Keys, Andy Gray thing here, so I apologize. But I think if he was from a different country, people would talk about him a little bit more, maybe. But he is still weirdly underrated.
I wanted to ask you, is he worth a statue outside of the stadium? I think he is.
I think quite possibly, if not a stadium, a little plaque, or like just a little commemorative can of Red Bull and a bottle of Skittle vodka just left outside the stadium, like a little statue of just a can of Red Bull and Skittle vodka. I think that'd be a pretty good tribute to it.
That would be incredible. And finally, before we go, we take our blimp to Italy. Our friend from the Hopeless Wanderer podcast that you guys should give a listen to, our friend Adam asks, who is Rory's favorite to lift the FA Cup at this given moment in time?
I think the favorite has to be Man City or Liverpool while they're still in it. I'm going to say Liverpool. They've not won it in a long time. I've got a feeling they're coming for the Cups this year. I really do have a feeling about them. I'm going to say Liverpool, but I'm going to say dark horses, Crystal Palace. Dark horses, Crystal Palace.
Oh, Adam. You should be satisfied with this take from Rory, and it's time to steer the wheel and go after talking about the exciting FA Cup action.
There was so many goals.
There was 1 goal scored across 2 games in the Coppa Italia first legs of the semi-finals. I did not watch the game between Inter and AC Milan because I'm always busy on Tuesday nights. I did watch the highlights, and oh my God, I was just like, this is boring. This is not that exciting of a game. We could argue that AC Milan had the better chances overall. Andanovic, on a good evening, he goes by evenings. An evening he dives, another evening he doesn't. Then he doesn't again. then he doesn't, and then he dives. The other day, it was the diving night. Inter Milan are going through the biggest goal-scoring drought I can remember. It still feels like there are not many ideas up front. There was also an awful foul by Lautaro Martinez on Maignan, AC Milan's goalkeeper. That could have easily been a red. I don't think he was even booked, but it feels like our strikers are going through a very, very bad spell. Everything to play for in the second leg. The choreographies from the fans were quite insane. The AC Milan choreography in the stands was beautiful with Popeye. Did you see that one?
With it was good. It was really, really good.
Punching his enemy, the fat guy wearing an Inter shirt, and the
Bluto?
Yeah, I think that's him. And Olivia, his wife, right? His girlfriend behind him with the love eyes. Oh my God. I really, really appreciated that. It felt like an iconic San Siro choreography. Everything to play for in the second leg, which will be played at the end of next month. You can go back a few episodes to just hear us vent about how poorly. Actually, you know what? If anybody in the Coppa Italia management is listening to this, Rory and I are available to organize a better tournament than you guys have done.
It's so funny that we were trying to be like, give the Coppa Italia respect. It needs to be watched. It needs to be like, and then it's just the two worst games. The most forgettable game is going to have its second leg in a month when people will almost certainly have forgotten that it ever happened. The only thing that from this game that I kind of made me look up from Twitter was the little fight-ish between Dumfries and Theo Hernandez. Theo Hernandez is a proper wanker, eh?
Yeah.
He's such a wanker.
Doesn't look like a guy I would go out drinking beers with. Doesn't look like that type of guy.
I feel like he's someone who, like, you know, your mate who like just starts on people and then you have to fight for them. Like, I just feel like he's a guy who just goes around causing trouble and then you just end up getting the shit kicked out of you because your mate's a mouthy prick. Like, and the way Dumfries looked at him was hilarious. I'm still taking Dumfries in a fight though. I'm still like, I'm backing him.
Also, this is from a few weeks back, but in an Inter Milan interview, they asked Dumfries, "Do you know that fans are noticing the fact that you never smile?" And the guy just pulls out the biggest smile, and he's like, "Look, I'm actually a very happy person. Like, I'm always smiling. I have a great time with my family, with my teammates during training. It's just like when I'm in the game, I need to focus, and I put like kind of the angry face on. But I swear to God, I'm a happy guy." I don't know. For a long time, I just thought that it was sad to be pissed off all the time. Kind of like that for a football player in my team. We're going to get to the preview of Serie A, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Inter. The other game was Fiorentina-Juventus. Insane choreography by the Fiorentina fans, quoting the greatest poet of all time. I'm not going to say even the greatest Italian poet, the greatest poet of all time, Dante, who of course was a Florence native. They picked a part of a chant from Dante's Inferno that talks about traitors.
Yeah, it is the eighth circle of hell that is like, honestly, the levels to that and like the thought that's gone into it. The choreography was amazing. I put on Twitter, like, hell hath no fury like Serie A fans scorned. Like, they really, when they've been pissed off, they go hard. And Vlahovic got the shit kicked out of him. Every time a player went near him, it was just straight through the back of him. Like, yeah.
And venire in Italian is a verb that means to come, all right? Also in that other sense. And the venuto is the past participle. And we could say that all of the Juventus fans are venuti when Fiorentina's player Venuti scored an own goal in stoppage time after Fiorentina allegedly, I watched the highlights, I did not watch the game, but allegedly kind of dominated the game. Juventus had 0 shots on target against the 10 overall shots from Fiorentina in the first half. Is it true that Fiorentina was so dominating last night?
It was so one-sided. It was so one-sided. And again, on Twitter, I put Juventus are getting run over here, but somehow they're going to win 1-0. And they did. Like, it was just so obvious. The Fiorentina weren't taking their chances. they were like having the ball, but Juve were quite happy for them to have the ball. Like we've seen that Juve aren't good with a ball at their feet, so they're quite happy for Fiorentina to have the ball. And the longer they went without scoring, I was like, this is just, someone's going to get one. I felt so bad for that guy who scored. He's like a Fiorentina native as well, right? He was born in Florence.
I think he is, yeah.
It was just such a, like, and it wasn't even his fault. It was genuinely
very
like,
unlucky. If he hadn't got on the ball, the guy behind him would have scored a goal instead. So it was just like a very unlucky, like, bounce. It was, man, Cuadrado, that guy, also an ex-Fiorentina player. That guy is relentless. Like, well, I'm not going to make the usual joke about Colombians because I think it's stupid, but that guy is... He's always
you
running.
have just made by not making that joke. You just made the joke.
Damn it, Tommaso, you did it again. But no, man, when he's got that moment when he decides that he's gonna like create a dangerous play, and he does. I hate to see him play against Inter Milan. His record against Inter Milan.
I can see the hate. Like, I know how much you hate him, and I can see how much you're trying to like not go off about.
But also, he had such a weird career, and he had such a good spell at Fiorentina. And I feel like also the Fiorentina fans like really disregard him now for the way he like turned his back to the club.
I forgot he was at Fiorentina.
Yeah, he kind of went all around, but he was at Fiorentina for a while. But this also, the second leg will be played in over a month. Great organization, boys. Let's stay in Italy very quickly to preview this weekend in Serie A, and it all kicks off tonight for you listeners. Friday night, 8:45 p.m., Inter Milan against Salernitana. Now, I don't want to write off Salernitana because they're actually on a mad tear. Well, kind of. 4 consecutive draws that for Salernitana are pretty incredible, and they've scored in 5 consecutive games, which was not a given. Seeing the season that they were having. Inter Milan, on the other hand, 0 wins across all competitions in the last 5 games and only 1 goal scored. This is the longest drought we've had all season. I want to say the longest consecutive drought across the past 3 years, possibly. However, Inter Milan are still top goal scorers in Serie A with 55 goals. AC Milan are catching up. Look, I refuse to believe that our attacking system has failed to work all of a sudden from one moment to the next. If we scored 55 goals until now, it must mean that things work pretty well up front. Have our opponents figured us out? Quite possibly. However, are Dzeko and Lautaro Martinez experienced players? Yes. Is Sanchez an experienced player? Yes. Is Inzaghi a good manager? I believe so. So I want to believe that there was some serious discussions at the Inter Milan training center. They sat down and they really talked about the fact that if you want to win a league, this is not the attitude that you can have during a game. It's not like Inter Milan are not shooting. Our shots actually have been a lot. It's about precision. And to me, and this was very evident in the game against Liverpool, it's about shooting when you are in the right position. It's all about XG. I feel like sometimes we're just like... just kind of waiting too much around the ball, waiting for the perfect pass. Come on, just shoot the ball. Just try to find the open man, but don't force the open man. The game against Salernitana is a must-win. I've been saying it about the past few games that we've had. After that one, we have got, let me take a look, Liverpool, which I'm not very hopeful for. But in Serie A, after that, we've got Torino, Fiorentina, and Juventus. That's going to be another intense streak. And if we go... You need
to win against Salernitana and Torino because those other two are not certain at all.
Yeah, about Fiorentina and Juventus, I'm not certain either. Also, Juventus, goddammit, they're starting to look scary again, like everything is going their way. But let's move to Saturday. Udinese Sampdoria at 3 p.m. 6 p.m., we've got Roma Atalanta. Interesting game. This one, unpredictable, seeing the form of both teams at the moment. And then Cagliari Lazio. Cagliari, the second team with the most points in Serie A in 2022. Walter Mazzarri has really turned them around after an awful Walter Mazzarri tenure in the first half of the season. He's playing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then on Sunday, 12:30 p.m., lunchtime matchup between Genoa and Empoli. 3 p.m., we've got 3 games, Bologna-Torino, Fiorentina-Verona. This one is an underdog of a game that you might be looking forward to. Venezia-Sassuolo, also quite exciting. Juventus-Spezia at 6 p.m., And then the big one at 8:45 p.m. Central European time on Sunday, Napoli take on AC Milan on what could be the match that decides the Scudetto race. Now, Napoli are definitely in better form compared to AC Milan. The win against Lazio did feel a little bit like a statement win. AC Milan are coming from 2 consecutive draws in Serie A, one against Salernitana and one against Udinese. On the other hand, Napoli, as I just said, come back from the win against Lazio and from a draw against Cagliari. This game is going to be played in Naples. The first game this season between the two was won at the San Siro by Napoli with a goal by Elmas at the 5th minute. The game from last year the last game from last year was also won by Napoli 1-0 with a goal by Politano. And the one before that in the previous season was won by AC Milan at the current Stadio Armando Maradona. I don't really know who to pick for this one, but all I know is that AC Milan did play 90 minutes of football against Inter Milan on Tuesday night, and the Napoli didn't. So they had all the time in the world to prepare this game. Spalletti looks like he's ready to make statements, and I think Napoli could catch a very clutch win. I actually was kind of writing them off until the game against Lazio that brought them back in the race. Mm-hmm. Rightfully and fully. Currently, they are the table leaders, and AC Milan are on even points, but second.
Yeah, for me, it's really key for Milan. If they get through the first 15, 20 minutes without conceding, I think they've got a chance. We know that Napoli really like to start games super quick. And if they're more rested than Milan, then they're going to be looking to get that intensity up. So I think if Milan can outweight that first 20 minutes and not concede, they've got a chance. But I don't know. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one.
Across the past 24 games, however, only 5 wins from AC Milan, 8 draws and 11 Azzurri wins. Wow, I didn't expect these numbers to be so different. Rory, there is also an incredible matchup this weekend in the Premier League. Take us through the English action across the weekend.
Well, now I'm not going to give you times, guys, because I'm giving up. So you need to go on your phone and figure out what time it is. But it all starts on Saturday.
Can you do days at least, yeah?
Yeah, Saturday. I just said Saturday.
All right, good.
So on Saturday, the first game is Leicester versus Leeds. Leicester with Jamie Vardy back. Leeds, Jesse Marsh's first game in charge. Are we going to see... This is honestly going to define how seriously he's taken in British media. I think if this game goes badly, he's instantly going to be written off. This is going to be a really interesting game. Last time, it was a 1-1 draw, goals from Barnes and Rafinha. I think this is a great way to start off the weekend, with it being the early kickoff. I'm going to say there's going to be an upset and Leeds actually get a result here. Then, continuing on Saturday, we have Aston Villa taking on Southampton. We have Chelsea taking on Burnley. Another game I think could be quite intriguing. Newcastle versus Brighton.
Hell yes.
I think this is like the fashionable managers derby. Like Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, 2 young, good-looking guys, up-and-coming managers. I feel like there's a bit of a derby going there. Obviously, Brighton are in horrific form, and their season is, I think, petering out, has petered out. Newcastle, obviously, in great form. The last time this game also was a 1-1 draw, games from Trossard and Hayden. I think this time Newcastle are going to pile on the misery for the Seagulls a little bit, but I think that could be a good game. Then we have a massive relegation dogfight. Norwich will be hosting Brentford. Last time Norwich won 2-1 at the Brentford Community Stadium. Goals from Norman and a Pookie penalty. Brentford need to win this game. They need to win this game. If they lose this, then they're already in the fight. If they lose this, they have to concentrate about getting out of the fight, whereas I think they could just keep themselves out of it if they manage to get a result here. Then on Saturday, we also have Wolves taking on Palace. Last time, Palace won 2-0, goals from Zaha and Gallagher. Wolves have now lost their last 2, including a game to Arsenal. So their form is starting to fall apart a little bit. I think this is a good game for them to maybe bounce back. But we have seen throughout the season that Palace are a tricky team to play against. They can pull off the odd upset. Then the last game on Saturday is Liverpool versus West Ham. This is going to be a great game. The last one we will remember is, or was, that great West Ham 3-2 win, an Alisson own goal, Fornals, and the now not so appreciated Kurt Zouma scoring for West Ham, Alexander-Arnold and Origi getting the goals for Liverpool. Last time West Ham beat Liverpool at Anfield was in 2015. It was a 3-0 win. They will be hoping to repeat that. I think this game is going to have goals everywhere. We've talked about it a little bit. The West Ham squad is so short that, like, I think them getting knocked out of the FA Cup is good for them in a way. Like, it just gives them less games to play. They can keep players on the pitch, but they are going to be tired. Then on Sunday, we have the big one. Watford versus Arsenal. Last time Arsenal won 1-0. Emil Smith-Rowe scored the winner. Feeling quietly confident about this one. But obviously, the big game is the Manchester Derby. Last time, this was one of Ollie's last games, I want to say. Maybe his penultimate game. It feels like it was towards the end of his time, wasn't it? It was one of the most one-sided, and I'm going to say most embarrassing losses.
When you say it was towards the end of his time, it sounded very Lord of the Ring, like it was towards the end of Ollie's time.
Of his age. The Ollie age was over.
Exactly.
There was a new king, and he took pity on Manchester United as he only beat them 2-0 in a game where they could have gone about 15-0. It was a really, really, really bad game. But, well, for Manchester United anyway, I think this is going to be a mad one. This is a start of a really hard run for Manchester United. They've now got City, Atletico, Spurs, and I want to say there's another hard game in there, maybe Chelsea coming up.
They've got City, Tottenham, Atletico, Liverpool, Leicester, and Everton. Wow.
Yeah, I think up to that Leicester game, that is a hard run. That is a bloody hard run. So this is like the first one. If United can get a result here, it puts down a proper marker of like, right, we can go into this run. If they get humiliated again, it could really put their heads down going into a tough run. So I think this is a big game. I'm thinking City are going to win it. What do you think, Tommy?
Look, I mean, we were talking about Tottenham earlier. What's left for them in the season? Manchester United, with 2 games more compared to Tottenham, are in 4th position right now. But it's not a really stable 4th position since all the other teams behind could have got games in hand. But I do think that this game could be pivotal for their season, just like it's been up and down, more down than up all season. Now we've got really the opportunity to trip our city rivals. And so I think that they're going to try and study this game, prepare this game properly, and possibly come up with an upset. They would only serve an assist to Liverpool, which they don't really like historically. But you can't really choose in these situations. And I think that they're going to put everything they've got to try and upset the citizens.
No, well, exactly. And I think they've kind of got a similar problem to Inter at the moment, man. They just can't score. They're creating lots of chances. I think I saw a thing of no team has created more chances this calendar year in the Premier League than Manchester United. They're just not putting it in the back of the net. So if they can find some way of getting that front line to start scoring again, getting Ronaldo, it's weird to actually, I think it's like might be the first time in his career that we're talking about a Ronaldo goal drought, really, where it's like he hasn't scored for a while. So they need to find a way for that to work out. City, they're never going to struggle to score goals. So I think it's all about if they can get that front line firing. I would say maybe trying Rashford through the middle rather than out left. And I don't know, they've tried a lot of things. If Cavani's fit, it might be a shout. I think they just really need to get firing soon, but I'm still going to back a City win. Then I think there's one more game on Monday. I completely forgot to...
Tottenham, Everton.
That's why I forgot it, because I don't care. No, it is Tottenham taking on Everton at the Spurs ground. Everton.
Two wins across the last 5 games. Huh?
Yeah. It'll be interesting because if they smash Boreham Wood, again, listeners, you will know this, maybe they'll have a bit of confidence, but if they get a negative result against Boreham Wood, they are going to be on the floor. I think Tottenham should get a result here. It'll be one of those games where they win comfortably and then they bottle the next game.
Nice. And before we wrap the Euro review up and we go talk to our friend AFC Finners about the great late Stan Cullis that I spelled probably wrong multiple times across the day, I just wanted to thank Rory for tipping me off with a great The Athletic podcast interview that I listened to today. It was an interview with Mario Balotelli. Who was the defender, the Man City defender who was interviewing him?
Nedum Onuoha, who is, I've seen, like, since he's gone into the media, he's amazing. He's been really good pundit, really
honestly,
good interviewer.
If he hadn't said it multiple times that he used to play football, I would be like, wow, this guy's a top journalist. Like, a great interview, great interview. My favorite moment of the interview was when Balotelli never mentioned Inter Milan. Never mentioned Inter Milan.
I sat listening to it going, he's still not said him. Tommy's going to be losing his shit. He
even mentioned what was the happiest moment of your career. And he's like, oh, when I debuted in the Serie A and then they talk about the Champions League and he's like, that league win at Manchester City with the Aguero goal on the last match day was rightfully so the best moment of my career. And the interviewer asks him, even better than the Champions League? And I'm like, okay, now he's going to mention Inter Milan. And he's like, well, winning the Champions League with that team, he said, was definitely a great emotion. He mentioned AC Milan a few times, never talked about Inter Milan. At a moment, there was a question about abuse, to which, in my opinion, Balotelli answered to brilliantly. Mm-hmm. And I was like, now it's the time he's going to mention Inter Milan fans, just like chanting the most awful shit towards him during every game that he played, wearing an AC Milan shirt, but he didn't. Still managed to never mention it. The thing that the interviewer also notices is like, holy shit, Mario, it almost feels like I'm not talking to you, like you're a completely changed person. And he says that, of course, especially after having had kids, he's matured a lot. He's much more calm. He barely uses his phone, which is not something I would have expected from Mario Balotelli. But it was a very good interview. I recommend it to everybody. You cannot find it on Spotify. You need to have The Athletic subscription, but it was a generally very, very good interview, and I recommend it to everybody. We are now ready to jump to the weekly topic. Our friend AFC Finners is coming on to take us through the life and the deeds of the great late Stan Cullis. As the Wolverhampton Wanderers might be just looking at their highest finish in the Premier League ever, we take a look back at their history and specifically at the life and deeds of the late Stan Cullis. Of course, Rory is here with me, and we are joined by our good friend and English football expert, AFC Finners. How are you doing, bud? Welcome back to the pod.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been quite a while, but yeah, good to be back on.
I just would like you to tell our listeners what you just told us about what's going to happen in your hometown come next weekend.
Yeah, so I'm based in Cheltenham, and like for non-English listeners, we've got the Gold Cup, which is like the World Cup of horse racing. Not a sport I like, but provides us with plenty of work, and we've just been preparing for that. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. Drunk Irish people everywhere, fights, Guinness.
Careful.
When is this happening again? You said a quarter million people are expected in Cheltenham.
That's right, yeah.
And when is this happening again?
A couple of weeks. Week after next.
All right. To all our horse race loving listeners, which I think is probably none, keep an eye on the Gold Cup in Cheltenham. But AFC, we're here today with you to talk about the life and deeds of Stan Cullis. I will kind of leave the floor to you and Rory to discuss the great career of one of the most influential managers in the game, I want to say.
Well, I think undoubtedly, and we've kind of done a few of these, and like it'll tie in. Like we won't spoiler it yet, but it will tie into one of the managers we've talked about previously with AFC Finners. But this is someone like I honestly only knew that Wolverhampton Wanderers had a stand named after him. Right? I've been to Molineux. It's quite a nice stadium, and I was like, oh, he's probably just the club's record goal scorer or something. I never really thought about it, and then when we said we were going to do this episode, I was like, okay, let's research him. So much more to know about this guy than I ever would have anticipated. So much more impressive, achieved so much. And I was like, as I was researching, I was like, oh, I'm so glad we get to talk about this guy. So, like, Finners, what was it that first made you want to talk about him, and how did you hear about him?
Well, I think in terms of talking about him, it's because like his story is so fascinating, but he gets so overlooked compared to the likes of Matt Busby, Bill Shankly, Brian Clough, and others. But like you sort of, it is similar to that. You sort of think, yeah, Wolves had a golden era, and then you like look into it. It's like, oh wow, there's so much there. But it's like there's so many like amazing details about him that like he won more league titles than Clough and Revie. He went on England duty, stood up against the Nazis, and also played a big part in the formation of the Champions League. And yet he's not like a household name that he should be, which I think is a massive shame.
Why do you think that is? I was trying to think about why he wouldn't be in there. Is it because Wolverhampton Wanderers aren't as fashionable a club as Liverpool or Manchester United? Is it that simple, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. I also think it's maybe because he, a bit similar with like Bob Paisley, he doesn't quite have the same like persona as people like Clough and Shankly. So like you can't look back and find all these crazy interviews with him. The interviews like he does are very like sort of down to earth and stuff. So he doesn't necessarily have that like charismatic personality. But yeah, I think it's kind of a mix of that and perhaps Wolves like, because they went so downhill after him, people don't talk about their history as much as like Arsenal, Man United, or Liverpool.
Yeah, it is fascinating. Again, it's kind of a period I always knew that Wolverhampton Wanderers had success without knowing what it was. I just knew they were a big club, and that was it. I didn't really know much about it. So, well, we'll start at the beginning. It makes sense, right? So let's start at the beginning of his life. Where did he come from? How did he grow up? How did he get into football?
Yeah, so he moved up to Ellesmere Port as a young boy, and he did play football, but his dad actually forbid him from having trials of local clubs because his dad was an enormous Wolves fan, and he basically said when he comes of age, he will play for Wolves. I'm not letting him like he played for like Ellesmere Port boys, but like they were like an amateur team. It wasn't like he wasn't allowed to like speak to the local scouts, and then eventually he joins the youth ranks at Wolves, and the manager in charge, Major Frank Buckley, like was really impressed by him as a young defender, and basically said like, yeah, under my stewardship, basically said to him, I have no doubts that you'll become captain of Wolverhampton Wanderers. So he his dad raised him as a Wolves fan, and he like made his dad proud by ended up playing for the club just as he wished.
I love that his dad's almost like Neymar's dad nowadays, just deciding what clubs he's going to go to and negotiating everything. I kind of like that. So he went on to play for Wolverhampton, and how he became captain, and how did he become such a legendary player for that club?
So he did everything at quite a young age. So he he very quickly rose through the ranks, and he became captain only a couple of years after he managed to break into the youth team, and also I think he became England's youngest ever captain. So he his career just skyrocketed so quickly, but he got quite unfortunate because his career kind of what goes up must come down. And in this case, because it came up so quickly, it came down so quickly. Because like a lot of people talk about, his career was disrupted by the war, and whilst he was playing like a wartime game, he received a ball to the face. Now it's strange because obviously a key part of football of the past is that attention wasn't paid, but not much attention was paid to head injuries. But in this case, it was, and they basically said to him, like, if you head a ball again, you might die. Like, it was that severe, and he ended up in the hospital. And he ended up having to retire just because, like, he was at such a risk.
It's such a mad thing because, like, now we talked about last week about how concussion is not taken seriously, Tommy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I was thinking about the same exact thing right now.
And it's something that, like, obviously those old balls, if it was like raining, the weight of them like doubled or tripled, right? Taking one of those to the face, like, yeah, you don't want to do that. But it's mad that it's like they had that awareness, and yet we don't have the awareness now. It's pretty crazy.
Imagine being a goalkeeper back in the day. I want to say that gloves were people started using gloves in the 1950s, maybe. A lot of goalkeepers didn't have any protection on their hands. Imagine exactly a leather ball when it's raining and you're diving to get it with your hands. I think that's right now we still say that goalkeepers are a bit like the insane bunch in the footballing world. I think back in the day it made even more sense.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And for a while, it was legal to just push them into the net and it'd be a goal. So, like, I think they were definitely
very good point.
They were definitely the crazy ones. But yeah, so unfortunately, his career was ended early. He was sent away to war. Right, he came back. His career was ended early, and then where did he go from there?
Well, so he fought in the army, and like he sort of but like his time in the like military sort of prepared him for his managerial career, but it was also like his sort of stern leadership, like sort of set in stone for him to become a manager. Because a key part of his playing career was in 1938, so just before World War II, England travelled to Nazi Germany to play in a friendly game, and the German ambassador instructed the England players that they would have to perform the Nazi salute before kickoff, and all of the English players agreed to do so, except for Stan Cullis, who simply just said, "Count me out." And so he showed leadership traits, and but then he went back into Wolves like after retiring as a player, and he spent time as an assistant manager first, and then after a year he took over. And he made changes like based on his beliefs and discipline. So he installed like training regimes that were based on like military style assault courses. One of his key aims was to get his players to be able to jump 4 feet and 9 inches in the air. So there's like sort of parallels to like Marcelo Bielsa's training methods, or like Helenio Herrera or Nerio Rocco for the Italian listeners. He would just like drill his players so firmly just to make sure they were at peak fitness. And the results soon became plain to see.
Wow. Yeah, it's like Marcelo Bielsa without the requirement of getting scored as 3 goals against. Sounds a bit more efficient, yeah.
Well, I do like. We need to talk about the fact that he stood up, like, because that photo now is kind of infamous in English football history, right? It's kind of, I think the FA don't like that photo being shown around everywhere, and to be the only person who stands up and you give up an international cap, which at that time was like, obviously they're valued now, but then they were so much more value getting an international cap. To give that up and be like, no, I'm the only one that's walking away, it really is incredible, and it's something that he should be kind of acknowledged for more. But weirdly, he won't be because he's not in the photo. The people that are in the photo will be acknowledged more than him, right? It's weird.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's like, it's all those statements like you see about like the Russian tennis player the other day when Colin Kaepernick took a knee. It is one of those iconic moments. Sadly, as you say, there's not a photo of him not being there. It doesn't really work to solidify it, but the facts are there, and like fair play to him.
No, exactly. So he brought in these like very strict training techniques, this military kind of method. You said the manager was major, right? He was like a major, the guy he was assistant to. So were the results like immediate? Like how quick was the success, and how big was the success?
One of the key first results like was actually plain to see, because they so he took over shortly after the war, and then in 1949 they reached the FA Cup final, and just before the war they'd sort of become nearly men. Like they were constantly finishing second in the first division and had lost the FA Cup final as well. But in 1949, 10 years on after they last lost the FA Cup final, they defeated Leicester 3-1, and it was the first time that Wolves had won a major trophy since 1908. So by doing all of these military-style training methods, he managed to get them over the line. And as they say, the first trophy is often the hardest to win. And like as you see with other managers like Shankly and Ferguson, once they've won the FA Cup, the trophies start flooding in.
And it wasn't the last FA Cup they won, right?
No, they didn't. They didn't win the FA Cup for quite a while, but then after they won it, then it was like the next step was winning the league title, but again they still had that same kind of issue. So they had like brilliant attacking prowess, and obviously based around legendary defender Billy Wright as well, like a key part of their squad. But it took them quite a few years to win, like to get over the line. But eventually, in 1954, they finally won the first division title, and it was made even sweeter by the fact they beat West Brom to it, and their attacking quality was incredible because so it's like some of their forwards, Dennis Wilshaw scored 25 goals, Johnny Hancocks and Roy Swingborn also scored 24, and another player got 12. So there was a like incredible scoring output amongst multiple players. Normally you have one player get like 30 odd goals, but to have 3 players get over 20 is incredible.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we can come up with like an acronym like MSN for it, you know, like Messi, Suarez, Neymar. See if we can get an acronym, but my brain doesn't work that quickly, unfortunately.
Well, that's WHS. There's got to be.
Oh, there you go, WH Smith. There we go.
Oh yeah,
right. There we go. We nailed it. Yeah.
I just love the fact that this guy. I want to think that this guy was so in love with football that while he was in the army, he was actually looking at the drills that they were doing at the military training, and was like, "If I'm gonna survive this shit, I'm gonna bring this all to football." And it's just tells you a lot of the power of a sport when somebody's passionate about it. And I think that actually a lot of drills, a lot of training drills in modern football were actually took inspiration from army training. So that's absolutely interesting. I was reading he started managing when he was 31, and you thought Nagelsmann was a young manager, 31 years old. Wow.
So as well as the league titles, there was kind of their crowning moment was when they were kind of named the best team in the world or the greatest team in the world, right? How did this come about, and what were the results of this game?
Right, so basically, like floodlights had become installed in football stadiums in the early 1950s. Like some teams would like play midweek friendlies as kind of like a showpiece events. And basically, one of the best sides in the world was Honvéd Budapest, and because obviously around that time, Hungary were the best team in the world, and some of their best players played for Honvéd. So they had likes of Ferenc Puskás and Sandor Kocsis, both who had also gone to make their name in Spain. And Wolves arranged a friendly at Molineux against Honvéd, and basically loads of people turned up. And bearing in mind it was only a friendly, and so around 55,000 people turned up, and Honvéd went 2-0 up, but Wolves managed to come back from 2-0 down to win 3-2. And Stan Cullis after the game said that Wolves, he said that we're the champions of the world now. And also after the game, I can't, the name escapes me, but there was like a prominent journalist, I think he was French, he sort of said, wouldn't it be great if we had like a competition amongst all these like European teams, because they kind of realised, a midweek game under the lights, that could attract a lot of people. And then like one thing led to another, and soon after the European Cup, now known as the Champions League, was created. So yeah, so something a lot of people might not know, Wolves play one of the key clubs in the formation of the Champions League.
It is absolutely crazy to think about. And I love how like ideas that seem so obvious to us now, they had to come at some point, right? And you're like, how did they not think of it earlier? But of course it had to happen at some point, right? And I love that that's how it happened. Also, guys, you can see the highlights of that game on YouTube. And it's got the classic British Pathé voice, which I always appreciate hearing. So you can search for Honvéd 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 3, and you will see it. Some really nice football played. Like those Hungarians played some bloody nice football. And obviously, of course, so did Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, we should have an episode one day about what happened to the Hungarians and the sport of football since then, because it's been a quite steep downfall. But I was just thinking, probably it wasn't something that they had ever considered to do international competitions, also because our continent was constantly at war. After World War II, there was that big sort of like resolution to stop pissing each other off, the birth of all these international organizations. Yeah, until now.
For a bit, yeah.
Yeah, for a bit. I see you just unmuted yourself. But yeah, and then I didn't know about this, and this was super exciting to find out. That this guy has a saying in the birth of our favorite competition that might disappear in favor of
not now, Tommy. Not
the
now.
Remerge, the Super League. But Stan, don't listen from your grave. I will let you guys keep going.
So, was there any more success for Stan at this point? How did it all come to an end?
So basically, after that, they captured a couple more league titles, because obviously it was the late 1950s, and they obviously up against the Busby Babes, and they captured a couple more league titles, and as a result of this, they were able to partake in the European Cup, so they were able to finally be part of something that they created. And so their first venture into the European Cup was short-lived, because they lost to Schalke. But then the next season, they retained the first division. So they entered the European Cup again and managed to get all the way to last 16, where they lost to Barcelona. So he managed to get them 3 league titles in the 1950s, which is that is incredible when you think about it, because not many managers do actually have 3 league titles, let alone with one club. And nobody has been able to do that since with Wolves. Nobody's won the first division with them. And also, as we alluded to earlier, he was able to recapture the FA Cup again. Now, actually, I'm going to give you a little quiz. It's a very famous FA Cup final, not because of Wolves. Can you guess which FA Cup final it is? It's something you always hear about. I'll give you a clue.
Blackburn. Now, I think, just because I think he always used to go on about the FA Cup, I'm going to go for Dave Whelan, but
yes!
I don't know. Yeah, nailed it.
It was the cup final where Dave Whelan broke his leg, something that most people probably have never heard about.
You nerds.
No, Tommy.
Tell
me about it. I don't know anything about this.
So basically, Wigan's former chairman, Dave Whelan, broke his leg in the FA Cup final, but it was a trademark of his. Literally every time he would be interviewed, he would mention that he broke his leg in the FA Cup final, and it's kind of a meme. We sort of think when he passes away on his tombstone, it's going to say, "Here lies Dave Whelan, who broke his leg in the FA Cup final." Oh, sorry, I'm terrible.
But, in case you didn't know.
So back to the Wolves thing. So they thrashed Blackburn 3-0, and they won their second FA Cup under Stan Cullis, and so ended up getting into didn't break ground in the European Cup. Were able to be part of 2 European Cup campaigns, and also win 3 league titles, and now they'd sealed their second FA Cup. But sadly, this did turn out to be Stan Cullis's last major honour at the club. So but it kind of, it's quite a cool bookends. Started with an FA Cup, finished with an FA Cup. But after this, they really started to slide.
I was reading the Italian Wikipedia about Stan Cullis, and it says that he retired in 1964 after turning down an offer to manage Juventus. And I just love the fact that he not only refused the offer, but he said, rather than accepting it or refusing it, I'm just going to retire. And to an Inter fan, it's just right, I feel a connection to this guy all of a sudden. I'm not English, I've got nothing in common with Wolverhampton, but this little news really made me smile. I was like, what a hero. Did you know about this, AFC?
Weirdly enough, I didn't actually know about the Juventus offer. So
something that Wikipedia knew and AFC Finners didn't.
So, before we wrap up, what is the legacy that Stan Cullis has at the club now? And is he still revered highly by Wolverhampton fans?
Oh, absolutely. I think like amongst Wolves fans, like they'll I admit I don't know many, but I'm sure like if you ask them about him, he'd tell you all day about them. But I think his popularity is kind of insulated. It's amongst like the Wolves faithful that he's known. It is quite sad because his relationship with Wolves didn't end well because they sort of slipped and like it was a bit like sort of not quite it slipped even further than like Wenger at the end of Arsenal, but like it was kind of because of what he'd achieved. But then so started the next season and then like after a few ones of decline and then at the end like they decided to call it a day after such a long time. But he was devastated by like leaving, but I think it was summed up perfectly like what he did for Wolves because he was so upset and his response to being sacked was, "You only have one life and I gave mine to Wolves." And that kind of if there's one quote you want to sum him up. But like he did he did retire and he did briefly return to Birmingham, but he did very little for them. But like also who we've previously discussed, Bill Shankly described him as one of the greatest managers in the history of the game. And like, if Bill Shankly's saying that, like
you're doing something right?
Yeah,
you're doing something right.
Gold. but yeah, like I said, he's definitely like there's definitely that appreciation with Wolves because they don't just have a stand named after him. There's also a statue of him outside. But I think it is a massive shame that he doesn't have the credit he deserves because he's without a doubt one of the best managers in the history of English football. Like nobody's been able to do what he's done since with Wolves. And I just think it's a combination of factors that like he like we mentioned earlier that he isn't like held in that same regard because of like perhaps Wolves because they haven't been as successful since people aren't talking about their success, and also the fact he didn't have the same kind of personality as people like Clough and Shankly. But no, I think it's really sad, and I just hope more people can know about his story because it's not just a success, like his like path, like the trials and tribulations he faced, standing up to Nazis, having to retire early. It's such a brilliant story, and he lovers of the European Cup have him to thank.
It is beautiful indeed. And this is why we love having you on because you're always trying to light on, and we hope also our listeners appreciate it. We're actually sure about it. I also love, which sounds like a very British ending to all this story, that I'm reading again from Wikipedia. He retired officially 100% from football after the Birmingham job in March 1970. And after that, he opened a travel agency and he died 31 years later on the 28th of February 2001. I just love the idea of this man that, as you were saying, you were just like recapping all of his achievements and then said, all right, I'm done with football, little travel agency in a small town in England, and this is going to be the rest of my life. What else could you want, right?
And not just any town, it's Malvern, which isn't far from me, and it's an absolutely beautiful place. So,
really nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Especially compared to if he had to live in Wolverhampton and Birmingham. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that.
yeah. Yeah, he really needed He needed a change at some point, I think. Thanks, Finners. I really enjoyed that, and I'm sure our listeners did. Learning about someone that doesn't get enough credit, Stan Cullis. Brilliant. And thank you again, Finners. We look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, pleasure to be back. Thank you all for having me on.
And good luck serving beer to all those horses, right?
Oh, God, I'll need it.
Talk to you later, man. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Hello everyone, it's AFC Finners here. Thank you for listening. Just to let you know, you can check out my channel on YouTube. Just type in AFC Finners and you can find a video of Stan Cullis and plenty more on football history and ground hopping. Thank you for listening.
What a pleasure to have our good friend AFC Finners back on. Super interesting story. And I just want to say one thing. I'm loving these connections that we've made with people that we've never met in person on the internet. Thanks to football, thanks to our podcast. It's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Like I said at the beginning, a guy I knew nothing about, not Finners, Stan Cullis. But Finners also a guy I knew nothing about until we started chatting. Yeah, really good to have him on. We will be having him on again as the season goes on. I think the way he summed it up was great. Like just trying to get these people more known, more people knowing about the kind of football history in England. There's a lot of it. There is a lot of it, guys. So there's a lot to talk about. We will have him on. Good times. Are we ready to do the outro?
We are ready to send you guys off. I just wanted to signal to you that Swedish football journalist Nima Tavalai Rodesari, and I apologize for possibly mispronouncing his name, most likely, had a very good interview on Ghanaian television talking about the hypocrisy of the Swedish Football Federation addressing the current issues with the Russian sports world in general. You can go to our Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod, and this full interview is in our Instagram stories. Remember also to follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, to give a cheeky follow to our friend AFC Finners, and also to our sponsor at the Sports Club Maps. Rory, have you got anything to add?
I think we're done for this week. Enjoy your footballing weekend, guys. We will see you live on Twitch and YouTube at 8 o'clock Central European time to talk about it all. See you on Monday, guys.
And hashtag pray for Inter Milan. I think we need to launch the hashtag at this moment in the season. We are going to send you off with a quote coming completely from left field. I don't know why it was reposted this week, but I absolutely love it. We are going to take you to Manchester, the red side of Manchester. It's a quote by Rafael on Anderson. Yes, we're taking the clock back a decade, I want to say. So what did Rafael say on Anderson? If he had been a professional football player, he could have been the best in the world, but he would just eat whatever was put in front of him. We would pass the services on the motorway, and Anderson would jump up impulsively and yell, McDonald's, McDonald's. Thank you for listening, guys. We'll talk to you again on Monday live on YouTube. Have a good weekend.